Afternoon, everyone. Welcome to EIA Marketing and Career Q&A discussion workshop series. I'm your old friend, Dr. Siding Luo, EIA Executive Manager of Partnership and Engagement. We conduct a very successful discussion panel session in last month. In this EIA Marketing and Career Q&A workshop series, the recorded video could be reviewed on EIA social media platforms. And the purpose of this Q&A discussion workshop is to provide you an overview of today's marketing discipline, discuss what's the key personal attributes for a successful marketing career. And in today's workshop, we have new group of panels. They will focus on the personal experience and share with us their perspectives. And as the same as last time, our Executive Manager of International Engagement, Erik William, will chair this discussion session. Erik is the immediate former Director of Transnational Education at Victoria Uni, and he has extensive experience in designing, establishing, and managing transnational education partnerships in Australian universities and the private sector organizations. And today, we also feel honored to have three distinguished panelists to join in with us. We have Dr. Michael Valos, Senior Lecturer in Department of Marketing, Deakin University. And Michael facilitates engagement between marketers and peer-reviewed academic research. Michael is the winner of a number of academic publication awards, numerous industry articles, and author of 2 marketing communication textbooks. For over 15 years, he has facilitated approximately 12 CMO focus groups per annum, comprising the cream of Melbourne's marketers discussing key issues. And we have Mr. Erik Zimmerman, who is the CEO of SiteTech Solutions. Over a 20-year career, Erik has worked in most aspects of business for both large corporates such as Unilever, Sara Lee, ANZ, and AGL, and more recently, his own smaller entrepreneur business. In 2007, Erik founded the renewable energy companies Resico Limited. More recently, Erik has invested in energy solution business Eco Group Corporation, which with a focus on energy efficiency and solar. He is also CEO of SiteTech Solutions, a leader in the field of site hire, fencing, and safety with more than 1,500 building sites in Victoria using SiteTech equipment. Erik has made a personal commitment to becoming a part of the solution to global energy challenges and has a passion for translating consumer trends into business success. And our last panelist, who is Mr. Natalie O'Brien AM, who is also Director of Natalie O'Brien Corporation. She is a leading industry figure and has recently launched his own company, his own consultancy firm. Her contribution to Australia's food, wine, and the tourism industry is recognized through a collection of awards. Natalie was appointed a member of the Order of Australia in the 2019 Australian Day Honours list for significant service to tourism and food and wine associations. She sits on senior boards and committees, including the Global Trade Advisory, Victoria University Visitor Economic Advisory Committee, and the Global Business College of Australia. So let's welcome all the panelists. And now I will pass to Erik to chair this discussion session.
Thank you very much, Siding. A very warm welcome to our GBCA, EIA, University of Canberra, and Huasheng University students. Welcome today as part of our EIA or Advantage Career Series. You're very, very lucky today to have 3 unparalleled marketing experts, both from industry and from academia, to assist you understand the industry, understand job and career opportunities in the industry, to understand better the skills and attributes that you need to develop during your course, and finally, what are some of the trends in the industry. So we're very, very lucky today to hear, and our format will be 5 specific questions by me to our panelists. They will summarise their answers for you. I suggest that you all have your phone or a pad and paper to take some notes. And if you would like to ask a question, there'll be some time at the end for you to do so. And a good way to do that, please feel free to use the chat functionality if you wish to. Finally, this will be recorded so that, particularly for our Chinese colleagues, you'll have the opportunity to listen again to the presentation to consolidate your understanding of the marvellous tips that you're going to hear today from Natalie, Erik, and Michael. So let's make a start. Firstly, Natalie, to you. I'm wondering if you could please provide our participants with an overview of today's marketing discipline and the impacts of digital transformation for consumers and for marketers. Thank you.
Absolutely. Good afternoon, everybody. And it's with great delight that we're here to talk to you about marketing today. I think that broadly across the world, marketing is a very exciting sector to be in, particularly with all of the innovation that's going on and the highly competitive market that we have. I think one of the important things in terms of talking about digitalisation is that there are some core principles that are important to traditional marketing as they are for digital marketing. So things like understanding what your unique selling proposition is with whatever product or service that you're taking to market is really key. Making sure that you segment your market audience and understand which parts of the broad consumer base that you want to talk to. Then really following up with a marketing plan in terms of what those channels are that you want to communicate through. And finally, and very importantly, is really the measurement and the analytics and the return on investment for that marketing. So when we talk about digital transformation, it really is utilising technology and the software and lots of tools to both plan and report on the marketing. And I think some of the examples of digital applications in the areas that you might work when you move into this sector are things like website and search optimization, using tools to make sure that your product or service is seen most regularly and diverted in terms of the market that you're looking at. The other area that's become increasingly important is content marketing. So what we mean by content marketing is creating valuable and relevant content that you share about your business or service that helps people understand more about that sector. One of my favourite companies to follow is called HubSpot, and it's a particular marketing blog that I follow both on Instagram and also through their newsletters. And essentially they're parting with great information, whether it's quotes or case studies that are really useful. And then, of course, the recall when you're looking for that sort of service becomes quite high because you've had this ongoing relationship. The other areas in terms of digital transformation are social media advertising. So using social networks to market, to sell your product, to position the product, or get people to buy and purchase the product. I think the growing popularity is in video content. Using video content can be really powerful in brands and services selling their message. And one of the brands that I like to follow is GoPro, the brand that has the cameras, because they use incredibly strong visual music, sound, and visuals. And it's no surprise that their social following is 6.8 million followers in terms of having this incredible footage and that people like to follow. The other area of digital transformation is really the analytics, the ability to look at dashboards and Google Analytics to understand how connected you have been to the audiences that you're trying to seek and create a relationship. And digital transformation allows us to measure the connections and the views and the impressions in terms of when we're in the marketplace. And the other area that's gaining great popularity is influencer marketing. The idea of using social media to endorse and support products that are supported through the network of that individual. And we can see that that is a really powerful way. So as marketers or moving into the marketing area, I think these are some of the areas that you would work on. And to finish, I guess the whole idea of digital transformation, of course, has great benefits in terms of the consumer. So the idea that consumers can connect with your product or service 24 hours a day through social mechanisms, through website, when we're making or dreaming about a trip or a travel or a restaurant that we want to go, we can do that at any time through digital transformation. We can also make the journey of transacting and having an experience with the customer more easy. And we can also follow the customer through the period of time where they're making considerations about what they choose to buy, when they actually choose the product or service, and then we can very easily follow up with them. So I think that you're entering a time into the marketplace that's hugely exciting on a global perspective. It's never been more competitive, but also the innovations that technology is enabling us from a tools and AI and virtual reality is a really powerful way of selling our products and services, as well as being huge benefits in terms of the consumer. So I think that there is so much scope to learn more. And I think the final point is really just the rate of change in terms of the opportunities of technology to advance the relationship between product and service and the customer.
Thank you, Natalie. That's a marvellous overview of the industry and some very, very interesting concrete examples of digital transformation and how they're revolutionising the industry. Erik, I might move to you. We've heard a little bit about digital transformation from Natalie. Moving down a little bit, what sorts of technical, operational and strategic roles are emerging? And are some sectors of marketing adopting digital technology more than others?
Yeah, sure. Yes, I'll get into that. So marketing is a very interesting discipline, and we live in a very fast-paced, changing world, as Natalie's just talked you through. So I've been in marketing now for the best part of 30 years. And there's been some very major changes in that time. I know that a lot of the students on the call are looking to enter the workforce in marketing. And quite recently, I have a little startup going on in the background that's in the learning and development area. And so I had a look at marketing as part of that. And you know, in our country here in Australia, there are 44,660 jobs being advertised at the moment for marketing. And of those, there's 6,355 are specialist digital roles, just to give you an idea, and almost 12,000 are broader, what I would call a marketing coordinator role. So what has become quite clear is that emergence of the digital has created some specialist roles within marketing. You know, when I started in marketing, you would be a brand manager or an assistant brand manager, and then you would move to become a marketing manager, and eventually you would become a chief marketing officer. Nowadays, you may well start as a marketing coordinator, which is a broad one, but equally you might start as a data analyst, or you might start as someone who is a social media specialist, or an analytics. As Natalie said, you've got to measure everything. So there are definitely some roles emerging. And what I thought I would share with you is some of the findings of the research I did on the sort of skills that you're going to need, because I would encourage people to, during your career, actually transition and keep learning, because the one thing that hasn't changed is that we live in a very disruptive world, and you need to stay on top of your skills. You know, when you finish your university, that's just the beginning, and then the way you have to continually update your skills. So let me go through a few things that I think when you get to the workforce are going to become important. And as I said, I mapped all the jobs in Australia, and it's no surprise that the number one skill was social media. There were, 95 mentions of that across the jobs I looked at. And digital came in at number 2. No surprise either, given what Natalie's just talked about. But beyond that, there were some really interesting ones that I thought would be worth mentioning to you all. So, for example, the ability to create content is something that has changed dramatically in marketing. 20 years ago, you would employ an advertising agency to come up with an advertisement. Nowadays, content is being created every day. And so I can tell you, for the company that I have, we are updating our online advertising every 2 weeks. We have a new campaign that runs. And so you need to have an ability to tell stories every single day. So every time we have an opportunity to have a customer, we'll take a photograph and we will put that out there on social media to share the stories. But some of the other things I wanted to mention here, what was interesting is the amount of software you now need to be familiar with, right, in marketing. So Natalie mentioned HubSpot as one, but there's others like Photoshop, like WordPro, like the Adobe Creative Suite, the Microsoft group of programs, even Salesforce, HubSpot, YouTube, and some other programs that are there. So if you're going to be a complete marketeer, you need to, just like any other profession, know the tools of the trade. And the tools of the trade nowadays include a lot of different software programs to create and share content on the digital basis. So those things are really quite important. But there are, and maybe I can just share my screen quickly, because hopefully you can see a slide with 3 masteries there. Does everyone see that?
No, we don't have it, Erik. Perhaps just describe them.
Okay, I'll talk it through. So in my experience, and I've spent a fair bit of time on growing capability, there are 3 masteries you need to build in your career. So the first one is professional mastery. So that is all about knowing your job and having the skills to be a very solid marketing professional. All the skills that I just mentioned come into that one, right? The second one is interpersonal mastery. So this is an ability to present very well, create, to be able to inspire other people about your message, because as a young marketeer, your job is going to have to be to convince your boss that what you're thinking is a good idea, right? So there is an element of building trust that is needed. And so the things that come into play there are very much things like presentation skills, establishing relationships, productive meetings, those sorts of things. The final mastery is personal mastery. And this is the one not many people speak of, but you will need to, business life is tough, it's demanding. And in your business career, I would encourage you to build a sense of resilience and an ability to get through tough times, essentially, work under pressure, One of the things that came up in the job advertisements that I went through was an ability to meet deadlines, to keep your word, to build trust. So it's really important that that you focus on all three of those masteries: the professional skills, the interpersonal skills, and the personal mastery skills. I hope that makes sense to everyone. So really, yes, the answer is, I'll stop sharing now. Have we stopped sharing? Okay. The answer is there's definitely new jobs emerging in the digital field. And I would encourage you all to look at the core skills that I went through, the software, through to the social, through to the digital, but also those other skills about being able to meet deadlines, stay organised, and communicate and present very effectively. And that's really, I guess, my answer to that current that question. The other thing, sorry, just one thing quickly, is stay abreast of trends, because the world is changing very fast. And so the way to get your message out to customers is going to change in the next 5 to 10 years with artificial intelligence. And so make sure you're constantly staying up to date with the latest. That's it for me. Thanks, guys.
Thanks very much, Erik. Thanks for that very, very comprehensive overview of the industry. And students, Erik's given you 3, I think, very, very useful categories to place your own development in: professional, interpersonal, and personal. If you can develop in those 3 areas, you will become very effective, and you will have made very, very good use of your university education. Michael, can I turn to you now? Michael is a very, very experienced marketing academic and researcher. So you spend every day looking at marketing holistically. Could you give us your view on the key attributes of a successful marketer?
Okay. I've got a number of things to say about education. Maybe my focus will be a little bit more on education with the next question, but let's just talk about academic research. As academics, we do research and we try to provide a contribution to the knowledge and make marketing be more productive. So one bit of research I'm working on with a series of focus groups, and Reese reminded me not to talk too fast because I'm excited and I like what I do. I've got to hold that. We're doing research at the moment, focus groups with a lot of executives like Erik, and we're trying to work out what makes a chief marketing officer successful. So you look at the literature, you look at past studies, you see how the world's changed, and now it's more digital, and now there's remote learning, there's remote teams as well, due to COVID and due to advanced technology, like what we're using now. So we're using remote technology now, and some marketing teams now are totally remote. They source the best talent from anywhere. They're not just getting people from Melbourne or Daylesford or Bendigo. They're getting them from all around the world. So there's been changes to the role of the chief marketing officer. The ones that are going to stay the same are traditional people like Erik that have been heads of marketing. They have a big picture. They're holistic. The way he looked to the future to see how energy was going to be a great thriving industry when no one else could see that far ahead. So they see a big picture of the link between technology and customer satisfaction and revenue generation. They can see where the world's going. They try to get an understanding of how customer needs are changing, what Erik talked about. So I guess they have a big picture of how to compete, how the organisation can function, and which way customers are going in terms of their needs. The next thing is most successful marketers are curious about people. They're kind of amateur psychologists. They think, why is that person buying the product at $9.99 rather than $10? What is it about that 1 cent that makes $9.99 more attractive than $10? Or I did a lecture last night on pricing. And the other thing was, why are people more likely to buy a product for $110? One that was $170, $60 off now $110, to one that says $110. So You need to be curious about the psychology of buying behaviour, curious about human beings, because they're your customers. Comfortable with uncertainty. Erik talked a little bit about how things are changing. Marketers need to know it's an uncertain world and we never have perfect knowledge, and we've got to take a risk and do what we think is going to work. He invested a lot of money in the energy industry, it worked, and now he's moving to education as a big sector. So you need to realise not to be a perfectionist, not to say I can never take an action because I won't have perfect knowledge. So firstly, big picture holistic. They see the big picture of how things are related at a high level. They're curious about the psychology of customers. They're comfortable with what the competitor might do to me is uncertain. What Netflix are going to do when Disney Plus comes in, a 10% price discount, how much is that going to change my demand? We're going to live in a world of uncertainty. They accept risks. So I think at the moment, I might leave my chat there, but they're what successful chief marketing officers, what they're like, based on our focus groups with executives and our reading of the academic literature.
Thank you, Michael. I might ask participants, if you're not speaking, to just put yourself on mute, because we're getting a little bit of background noise. Thank you. Okay, to Natalie and Erik, we've had some great information about the industry, about skills, about attributes. Let's personalise it a little. Let's highlight for our intending marketers. Let's personalise it a bit through. I was wondering if each of you could recount why you chose marketing and what are the key satisfactions that marketing has given you over many years in your very varied careers, as well as what are the current satisfactions and future satisfactions that you're looking for. Thanks very much. Natalie, we might start with you.
Thank you. I think, as Michael was talking about, you need to be curious about people and like people. And I think for me, I have grown up in generations of a family that has worked in hospitality and restaurants. So I think at an early age, I really learnt to communicate with the customers that were coming to our family restaurants. So as well as working hard, is really engaging with those customers and making sure that they were having a wonderful time. And I really learnt that from my parents and from my family. And I probably didn't realise it at the time, but now that I reflect back, I think the aspect that I really enjoy about marketing personally is satisfying customers and having that communication. And I think for me, marketing is this wonderful communication tool. And I think with technology, we just have different ways that we're able to create our message. I think what I'm enjoying in terms of the evolution of marketing is how we really need to, and I think it was Michael that was talking about trends, is to understand where things are going. I think people are looking for authenticity. People are looking at things that are environmentally friendly, and how do we look at our unique selling proposition quite deeply and work out what are the important things that are going to be transferable to our customer. The other aspect, and I think that I also learnt this from my family, is the ability for storytelling. And I think Reese mentioned this as well, is the ability for marketers to express stories, whether that's through social media, through case studies and blogs, is this wonderful ability. And I think if we all reflect back to some particular activity we've done, whether it's purchasing a new pair of shoes or getting your hair cut or going on a holiday, it's really the layers behind that experience, the storytelling. And I think really clever marketers are really great at picking the story. If I look briefly to the future, I think that the rate of change in terms of technology and its use as a medium and to satisfy customers, I think it's a really, really exciting time. The other thing that comes with technology is data. And as marketers, I think Michael talked about research, the ability to have real-time data to understand how consumers are behaving in real time is such a powerful piece of information for marketers to use to direct their communications going forward. And finally, I think what I am really enjoying is working with some startup companies, some very, very small companies that have this ability to communicate their message globally. And the barriers that once were there with traditional marketing in terms of having the funds to be able to spend is a barrier that's been removed by digital transformation. And that is hugely exciting to see wonderful ideas and innovations being able to communicate and being amplified around the world with little investment in cost is really exciting. So I feel very lucky that I can work in this space and think that it's a growing, changing space that keeps you stimulated every day.
Fantastic. Thank you, Natalie. Your passion certainly comes through. And I like your comment that particularly for students today, that small can be big, that marketing 20 years ago might have been the preserves of multinational corporations, large state-owned enterprises, if we look at China. But today, given the technology and the digital transformation, if you're smart, if you're innovative, small can be big. And that's such a lovely message, I think, for students. So, Erik, I might pass over to you. What are your great personal satisfactions? Why did you choose marketing? Why does it get you out of bed?
Well, I guess it all starts with your personality. And my father was a futurist, and my mother was a psychologist. And so my father spent most of his time looking at what the world's going to look like in 10 years' time. And my mother spent most of her time understanding human behavior. And I'm like a blender of the two of those. Right? So I was in high school wondering what I was going to do. And I first tried real estate sales, and I hated it because it didn't feel like something that was creative enough for me. And so the next thing I did is I went and did some work experience in an advertising agency. And I loved it because every day I went to work, and I only worked there for 2 weeks, but every day there was different. And that's what I liked about it. We were creating advertisements for Coca-Cola and a lot of other companies at the time. And I thought, for me personally, I want to go to work and do something different each day. I'm not the kind of person that can do the same job every day. So I get restless, and I'm very creative, and I've always been very creative since I was a young boy. So that's how I got started in marketing. And I've done lots of different types of marketing, from consumer marketing, where I was the brand manager of some of Australia's leading laundry products. And then I did some international marketing. I went to Indonesia and I worked on Kiwi shoe polish marketing. And then I went to London and I did trade marketing and category marketing, which is more the sort of marketing with the retailers and how you set up the retail shops. And then more recently, I started my own businesses. So one of the things that I do love about marketing is, at the end of the day, businesses are successful for two reasons. It's how effective you are at generating demand, customer demand, and how effective you are at turning that demand into profit. Ultimately, it's the two. And there's a lot more to it than that. But so for me personally, I had a startup, back in 2007 in the solar industry. And I would encourage everyone on the phone to think differently, to be creative, because, and for those that are from China that are on the phone, right? I have a lot of people in my job as a CEO who approach me to sell things to me, right? And it's always talked about as establishing cooperation. And the problem I think that where things could improve on that is to actually create some stories in the process, right? Think a bit differently to what everyone else is doing. So I'll give you an example where I thought differently. So, you know, in Australia in 2007, the solar market was very, very small, and it was very, very expensive. And so I started thinking about how do we reduce the price of solar and make it accessible. And so essentially we created this different go-to-market strategy called a solar bulk buy, and we got all our neighbours involved in buying solar and putting it on their house. And it was amazing because I had a job as head of learning at one of Australia's biggest banks at the time. But all my neighbours got quite excited about this idea, and we sold 46 solar systems to my immediate neighbours, and I extended my mortgage by a few $100,000. And anyway, that became a business. And in the end, I won't, you know, bore you with all the details, but by the time I sold that company 4 years later, we'd done 205 solar bulk buys. And that business had 55 staff, and AGL bought that company. So, you know, if you think about how to create demand and how to do it differently to everyone else and how to tell stories, then you'll get your message across. And that's what I love about marketing, because we are the champions of the brand. You know, if we're the people that are really proud of what we do, we're the people that need to tell everyone in a very authentic way why they should buy our product over everything else. And we now have more ways to do that than ever before. You know, people are watching, I don't know about everyone else, but apparently, according to my phone, I'm looking at it for about 3 hours a day. So, you know, there are billions of people around the world looking at their phones for 3 hours a day or more. And so what a wonderful opportunity to create a brand experience. And so, you know, for me, that's why I like it. It's different every day. It's an ability to look into the future. It's ability to change the world. You know, I mean, Elon Musk with Tesla had a vision, and he doesn't spend any money on advertising. It's all storytelling. And you know what's really interesting is he doesn't tell the story himself anymore. It's all his users telling the story now. So, you know, that's amazing marketing. He decided not to go through car dealerships and sell direct to customers. Again, he reinvented the market, right? So these are the sorts of opportunities for people when you get into marketing to change the customer experience for the better, and ultimately change the world for the better. And so, you know, that's my personal reason why I'm passionate about marketing.
Thank you, Erik. That's a marvelous story, and those examples over many years that you've given. I hope students, you're taking note of those because they'll be very valuable for you to reflect on in terms of your own career. Our final question is back over to you, Michael. We've talked a lot about technical skills, professional skills. We've also talked a little bit about interpersonal and personal skills. I'm wondering if you could round off the session by talking about some of the broader capabilities that employers are looking for in new graduates today, broadly as well as in business and marketing. Thank you.
Okay. I'll just aim for 3 minutes here. So I'm proving I'm adaptable, aren't I?
Brilliant.
I'd like all the students to get a document that was presented to Erik and I and a bunch of marketers Friday called the Marketing State of Play 2021, an Australian study. It was a study of 233 marketers about the skills, and just have a look in there for the current digital skills. Top one was data and analytics, Customer experience design was the third one. So that's Michael Page, a human resource company, marketing state of play 2021 Australian study. I'm not sure how similar that will be to the jobs in China and other countries, but anyway, that's a starting point. The broader skills. My Deakin MBAs did a poll recently, about 80 of them, predominantly Indian. We don't have too many Chinese. We have a few from Colombia, someone from Brunei. I've never met anyone from Brunei before. And they voted on the soft skills they think they need, critical analysis. And as Reese knows and Sitting knows, I'm always critically analysis of the topics we're going to give to you guys over the year, coming up with different ideas. Why don't we talk about this? Why don't we do that? Communication. You saw Natalie talk about when she worked in the parents' restaurant earlier today, how it inspired her. So storytelling is a communication skill. Erik, the way he used percentages and numbers to make the argument about the size of markets at different times. Adaptability, me, with 1 minute left, proving you can make things on the fly, take a risk, change. You don't have to be locked into something. A growth mindset. These two people, one's an Order of Australia and the other is a serial entrepreneur that's developed 2 companies and sold them to big multinationals. They've got growth mindsets. So they're in the top 1% of people that I think are in the country. They believe they can do anything and they change and they learn. Erik talked about learning. So we want you all, the students, to have a growth mindset. Tell me when I'm wrong in class. Tell Erik if he's your boss, he's wrong. Find out fault in the PowerPoints and the textbook. Don't just be meek and subservient to existing knowledge. Be a challenger or you're not bringing any value. And universities, good practice is industry applied case studies of real companies, working in teams because the world's in teams, and having successful executives like Natalie and Erik come in and lecture as role models so you can aspire to them. And just as I've done with my adaptability story, I model my faults and improvements in front of an MBA class each week. So I use myself as a learning model of trialing and failing at things. Reese, that's 3 minutes on the money.
You're absolutely fantastic, Michael. That's brilliant. I'm going to now pass over to participants. Are there any questions for our panelists? Sitting, I might ask you to stop screen sharing so I can see people better. That's it. Do we have any questions? Jenny, do we have any questions come through on chat from China?
Hello. We have a student who she has some question.
Excellent.
Hello.
Hello.
As a non-marketing major, what should I do to prepare for entering this industry?
Thank you for your question. I might pass that to Natalie.
Reese, can we just clarify the question so that I didn't quite hear? Was about preparation for industry?
Yeah. What are the key things as a marketing major? What are the key things that she ought do to prepare now for success in the job market?
Wonderful. Thank you for the question. I think one of the things that I would recommend, because I feel like this ability to keep learning and find information. And so I would think there's some really great themes that have been talked today about what is your selling, what is your why, or storytelling. I would do as much research as you can. There are some brilliant case studies that are available online. Is really use it as an opportunity to supplement what you're learning with some real live case studies that are happening in industry. And I think that is a really great way to see things happening in real time and things that are happening in companies, small and large, around the world.
Thanks very much, Natalie. That's excellent. Do we have any further questions?
Can I add something to that one?
Yeah, go.
Sorry.
Okay. I just was going to say, one thing you can do, all of you can do, is when you look at the world of marketing, you will learn to appreciate certain brands and certain activities and certain people. and ask yourself the question, what is it about that brand I like? What is it about that person I like? What is it about that marketing campaign I like? Because when you see the good in something else, that's telling you that you're inspired by it and you can learn from it. So constantly spend time looking at the world and trying to pick what's really great about other campaigns in the world and what you can learn from that. Because if you want to prepare to get into industry, the most important thing for me is that you learn to think for yourself. You learn because everyone else can Google an answer, but your boss is going to be looking for you to, what's your point of view on this? How do you see the world, and how can you create growth and new customers? And you have to have an opinion for yourself, right? So keep learning from the world. There's a lot of good things out there.
Thanks, Erik. That's great advice. Sorry, I cut off that young lady from Huashong 02. What is your question?
I have the question in the epidemic situation. What is the biggest market challenge for our student if I want to be a market?
What is the
I think he meant what's the biggest challenge for students if you want to be a marketer?
Okay. Michael, I might throw this one to you. Students, final year, looking at a career, what are their big challenges now to secure a good foothold in the industry?
If they're talking about skills or traits, I think commercial acumen, a lot of times a student likes the advertising and the content creation, but doesn't know the margin and the dollars and cents. So often there's a weakness in commercial, like they're not entrepreneurs like Erik, that they're not financial, they're like creative, but they don't see the dollar impact. Okay. And the other one is a self-starter, a bit like what Natalie talked about, or Erik was just saying, the ability to go ahead and create your own knowledge. And if there's no one there to tell you how to do something, make up your own way. So we call that a self-starter, an independent learner. So I think they're two things. And in terms of career path, I'm not sure if they're talking about applying for jobs, job interview skills, stuff like that. I think be yourself in the job interview. Do some research on the company before you apply. So I'm not sure if the student's asking about applying for a job or a skill once you're in a job.
Okay, I think for the first part of that answer to that, it was an excellent question. Commercial acumen. Michael is making a very, very important point. You need to know not only about marketing and marketing communication and be creative, you need to know about the dollars, or you need to know about the profit and the loss. You need to know the wider business context. So a key challenge for you is to see marketing in the broader context of your course. That's very important. And both Michael and Erik have said, sell yourself, be yourself, have some ideas and communicate them. And in a global employment market, these are the 21st century global employment skills, if you like, that people are looking at. I hope that's answered your question. And I would encourage you to go back over the recording of this to get the fine detail of what our experts are telling you. Okay, do we have another question? We've got time for another couple. Jenny.
Yes, Reese, there's one audience raised a questions in the chat board. She asked, with the rapid development of technology, how does a competitive marketer stay up to date with the latest marketing trend and technologies?
Okay, Natalie. Natalie, how do marketers keep up to date with the latest technology?
Wow, I think that it is a combination.
I think the answer is with great difficulty.
That's right. I think, you know, it's definitely, you know, being well following up what's happening. I think there are lots of great trend documents that you can follow. But the other thing also that I wanted to add in terms of the skills was this whole idea of observation. And I think Erik mentioned it about is always be on the lookout for how technology is used in businesses to better the experience of customers, or technology that you've seen or experienced that is really great. So I would also encourage to be really observant about what information and case studies are flowing, or in actual practice experiences or technology that you've used purchasing something, and then dig a bit deeper to find out it. So always be observant.
Thank you, Natalie.
I can add some to that, Reese.
Hop in, Erik. Yeah.
So I have 4 ways to do this. So the first thing I mentioned earlier was learning. You know, learning is everywhere. So how can you do that? You can read books. You know, I read on average about 4 books a month at the moment, right? And you don't just have to read books, you can listen to books, right? So you can listen to podcasts, you can interview people, and you can do online learning, e-learning courses like you're doing now, right? So that's number 1. And I would encourage you all, rather than being a black belt where you know everything, be a white belt where you're there to learn, right? The second thing is networks. So you will form relationships with your other students. And, you know, if you find there's some people that think really creatively, then meet with them for lunch and talk about the trends they're seeing in marketing. The third one is formal study, like you're doing now. And the fourth one is observation. Have a look at the best marketing campaigns in the world and try and understand what you can learn from those campaigns. And so those would be the 4 ways you can stay up to date with the latest trends.
Brilliant. Thanks, Erik. Look, I think we're about done for time. Thanks. My head is spinning. My head is spinning with all of this marvelous information, marvelous suggestions that you've given. And I'm old and ugly and not looking for a marketing job, but you've got my head spinning. So, Sitting, I might pass to you for our wrap up. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Reese. Thank you, Michael. Thank you, Erik. Thank you, Natalie. I was impressed by your passion to this industry, and thanks for your advice and suggestion to our students. I think it will be a great treasure for our students, no matter you are last year student who is pursuing or just start pursuing your career in marketing, or you are year 2 or year 1, year 3 students. And I think it will help you to build your career path in future. And thanks everyone. Just to remind that this workshop is recorded and it will be published on our EIA social media platform. So you feel free to check and review in future. And we will have more events organized by EIA in the following months. Please follow up on our social media website. That's all from us. Thank you, everyone. Thanks for joining.
Thank you. Good luck with your studies, everybody.